Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of PJs and Coffee Time. Yes, I am sitting here in my closet on the floor. I know I probably look pretty silly sitting right here, but it's actually very, very cold outside today. And when I got up this morning, I was like, my house is freezing. And so I was thinking of the warmest place in the house, and I have my bathroom heater going, which is making my closet very, very warm. So hence I'm sitting on the closet and on the floor. I wanted to share with you all the robe that I'm wearing today is a robe that I got from Mary Kay back in the days when I was a beauty consultant for Mary Kay. I won this in some kind of promotional event that we were doing, and I never ever wear it, but I decided today I wanted to put it on because it's a very, very soft, snuggly, warm robe. And I don't know, I just felt like putting it on today. I'm torn between I wanted it to be spring and I'm tired of it being cold, but because it's cold I needed something warm. And then I was actually visiting with a friend via text yesterday from Jamaica, and it just got me to thinking about Jamaica again and how much fun I had. So I'm drinking out of my Jamaica mug. You guys remember me showing that to you once before. And before we go any further, let's talk about what I have on my face. Now, you know this is a place that we come as we are. We come in comfortable clothing. We don't have to be glammed up. We don't have to look like anything special. We can have, you know, sweats on, PJs, whatever it is you have on. You come as you are. You can be comfortable in the skin that God gave you. We don't need to glam up for this session. We just have fun as we are. But I always like to throw in something, a little helpful hint, whether it's something for the body or something for the face. I just always like to throw out something helpful. And so what I've been wearing lately, actually I've been doing this one for out throughout the winter, and I thought I need to share this with you all. Now I will say, disclaimer, this is old packaging. This is from my Mary Kay days, and it was sealed up, had never been opened. So during the winter months I started using this. Now my skin type is actually very, very normal. If anything, it might go a little bit dry during cold seasons, but I very seldom have, I don't even know ever of having oily skin. But this is a extra emollient night cream. And y'all, this is such a good cream, especially like right now, all the different areas are having crazy weather. They're having tornadoes, which is a lot of wind and rain, snow in a lot of places. And here in SA, like I said, it's like 40 degrees out there this morning, and it's April. Come on, like who does that, right? So anyway, this is one of those things that is really, really good for your skin. Now, like I said, I don't have dry skin, so I don't use this every day or anything like that, or every night I should say. I use it about twice a week, and I just totally like drench my face in it at night, those 2 nights, and then I wake up the next morning and of course wash the residue of the oiliness off of my face. But it leaves my face with a glow, a softness, and feeling very, very moisturized. And the name of this again is the Extra Emollient Night Cream, and it is from Mary Kay. And again, like I said, it is old packaging, so I apologize for that, but I love this stuff. And then another thing that I did put on my face this morning. Now this was on my face last night, and after I washed my face this morning, I looked through some of the things that I had, because I'm actually trying to pull out some of my makeup that I haven't used in a while, because you all know I'm actually getting ready to, right after this video, head into my beauty room, and I am going to trash a lot of things. So I'm wanting to use up the things that I think I really like to use back in the day, or just not real sure about them, so I'm pulling them out to see. And this is something by Estee Lauder. It's Perfectionist, and it's called CP Plus R. And so that's what it looks like. I put this on my face this morning right after I washed my face, and it just really totally evened out my skin, and it just gave me a real softness to my skin that's And before we go any further, I would like to welcome any of my first-time watchers. If you're watching for the very first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. And so let's get on with the story, shall we? Because I have lots to say this morning. As always, you guys know I love to chat. So recently I had a conversation with a friend of mine who shared something with me, and it just got me to thinking about my own life and just how certain things have worked out in my life and how I am in the way I am as far as my beliefs. I want to share with you all a story about something that happened to me in my life, and I like to classify the story as a miracle from God. So many, many years ago, when I was going through my divorce with my son's father, my now ex-husband, as you all know, he was my high school sweetheart. He was my everything. I went from, in a very short period of time, I went from having a home, a car that I loved, a man that I loved but didn't understand, to having to find another car, having to find a place to live, being out there on my own in a city, San Antonio, with my son, alone, striving to make it. And it was very, very hard on me. I went through a lot of different emotional feelings during that time frame. And I'll be very honest with you. Now, this video is going to be very, very honest, okay? So during that time frame, I fell out of my faith with God. I fell out of my trust to God. I felt like he had destroyed my life. He'd taken everything away from me that I felt like was important to me. Now, a little disclaimer, when I speak to God, I probably speak to God in ways that some people may not understand. I don't necessarily fall on my hands and knees and fold my hands in praying positions. I speak to God as if he's my friend standing right next to me, because I feel that that is who I am and that's how I represent myself. And so that's just the way I do it. So there were so many occasions where I would like literally be in my townhome, and I would be yelling at God, asking him, why would he do this to me? Why would he put me through such turmoil? Why? I even at times said, I hate you, God. I can't believe you would do this to me. And I look at my son and I would think to myself, like, look at this little boy. He's so innocent. Why? And so this went on for quite a while. And we were approaching our first holiday season without having a whole family again. And so I was already in that frame of mind of like, you know, how do you celebrate a holiday without your husband, you know? And that's the way I was thinking when my little boy came to me and said, Mommy, now again, another disclaimer, I did not have very much money at all. I lived very poorly back in those days. And my son was very good about asking for things. He knew that we lived on a budget. And so he didn't often ask for things that were way out of reach. But he was a child, and he, you know, like any other child, they have these little things that they want every now and then. So it was going to be Thanksgiving around that time frame. So my son came up to me and he says, Mom, I want to ask for something from Santa. I hope that I can get it. And I said, well, what is it, son? And he looked at me and he said, Mommy, I want a bike from Santa this year. And so I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, a bike, okay, I could work that out. A bike won't be that expensive. And so I said, I'm sure Santa can bring you that bike. So my son got really excited. And then he said to me, well, Mommy, I have to take you to show you the bike because I don't want Santa to make a mistake and get me the wrong bike. So I was like, okay. So that weekend we got in our car, and this place that he was telling me about was clear across town. So we get in our car, we drive across town. And as I'm walking through the store, I'm looking and I'm going, okay, this ain't Walmart, y'all. The bikes were so expensive. And the bike that he had showed me that he wanted was a $300+ bike. And I remember thinking, okay, this might be a little bit of a challenge. But I was like, you know what? I'm able to. Okay, sorry about that. My SD card filled up. I'm looking at the bikes and I'm just thinking, oh my gracious, this is a very expensive bike. But nonetheless, I managed to get the bike on layaway, and I made payments on it all the way up until about a week before Christmas. And I realized that I still owed another $100 on the bike. And now, mind you, I basically live paycheck to paycheck with very little money left over in between. And my paydays were on the last day of the month and the 15th of the month. Now, Christmas falls on December 25th, and I didn't have $100 to get the bike out. So my next payday was going to be on the 1st. I sat down one night and I contemplated how I was going to do this. So I was left with no other choice but to set my son down and give him a version of a Santa Claus story. So I sat down with him and I told him about how many less fortunate children there are in the world. And this year, because there is such an abundance of them, that Santa wants to do something special for those children, and for the children like him who have grandmothers and grandfathers who help and share and give them lots of things throughout the year for their birthdays, for Easter, and different things like that, that he's asking those children to be patient and maybe wait until after Christmas so that he can make sure that all the boys and girls that are less fortunate are able to enjoy their Christmas. Now my son looked at me and I saw his eyes just get full of tears, and he said, okay, Mom, but I really want my bike. Now, you guys can only imagine the pain I felt inside. I felt like a horrible mother, and I felt like I had once again been defeated. And I remember thinking, God, look at this child. He is a little boy, and this is what you're making me do to him. How dare you? And those were the feelings that I was feeling at that time. Again, like I said, this video is going to be raw and graphic, and in the sense of me explaining my emotions, because this is truly how I was feeling at this time. And so I went to bed that night, and I just could not believe the life that I had been dealt. I got off work the next day, and I'm headed to the house, and something told me that day, go check the mail. And so as I pulled the mailbox door open, I see a letter in there that was from CPS, which is our electric company. Now, mind you, when I first moved into my townhouse, I had to have my electricity turned on, but because I had not had it on in my name before, all the places we lived in, the electricity had been in my husband's name, I had to pay a $100 deposit. And they did tell me when I paid the deposit would be refundable after 1 year of service if I made all my payments on time. So as I'm reading the letter, I'm kind of going down the page, and I'm like, but I haven't reached a year yet. I have about 2 or 3 more months before I reach a year. But I'm thinking, okay, whatever. And I guess they're just letting me know. Well, I keep reading, and then it says enclosed is a check. Well, I didn't realize that there was a second page behind there, and the page that was behind it was a check made payable to me for $100 as a refund on my electric. And so I was so excited. I was so happy. I went to bed that night thinking, oh my gosh, I can go and get that layaway out. My son's going to have his bike after all. Well, I didn't say anything to my son, and at this point this was like the day before Christmas Eve. The next day was going to be Christmas Eve. So what I knew that, you know, stores closed early on Christmas Eve, and I had to work on Christmas Eve, but we did get off early. So I called the store on Christmas Eve morning and asked the manager what their hours were going to be. I was told that they closed at 1 o'clock. Now, mind you, this was a specialty store. They repaired bikes. They sold, like, this wasn't like your general, like a, you know, like a store. Like, it was a very customizable type of a store. So the hours was not the norm. So that they informed me that they were going to close at 1 o'clock. And I thought, okay, I get off at 12. Can I make this happen? So at 12 o'clock, I was rushing, trying to leave my job, and I called them just to let them know that I would be on my way. I said, you know, I'm going to be running really, really close to 1 o'clock, because by the time I was leaving my work, it was closer. It was about 12:20-ish in that time frame, and this drive was a good 35 to 40-minute drive away. So they informed me also that, you know, this is the holiday season, and like with everyone else, they have their employees have families as well, so they could not make me any promises. Just hurry there and get there as soon as I could. So I'm in my car, and I am driving, and I'm weaving in and out of traffic. I'm being very safe, but I am trying my best to get there. I remember pulling into the parking lot. It was actually about 1:03 when I pulled into the parking lot, and I can see someone at the door locking the door. I jetted to the front door, and I'm beating on the door, and someone finally looked up, and I'm like, please, please. And they came to the door, and I said, look, I called a few minutes ago. I've been driving from across town. I want my son's bike for Christmas. Please let me get it. So they did allow me to come in, and I was able to get the bike. Now fast forward to Christmas morning when my son woke up. So as all kids waking up at the crack of day, he comes down the stairs, and he's literally like rubbing his eyes, and he turns the corner, because the way our stairway was, we had a wall that you couldn't see the living room area until you got past that wall area. And as he approached that little section coming right past that wall area, he looks over to the Christmas tree, and he sees his bike sitting there, and I put a big Christmas bow on the bike, and he looks over at me, and he, with the most beautiful voice and just the smile on his face, and just, it will give you chills, and I get chills every time I think about it. He looked over at me, and he said, Mommy, there really is a Santa. And he just, I mean, he jetted out tears, and he jumped on that bike, and he was just like, and he looks over again, and he goes, Mommy, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was really mad at Santa, and I even told Santa that I was gonna tell God on him that he was being mean, and that he should bring me my bike. Mind you, this is the voice of a child. And you guys, I sat there that day, and I watched my son play with that bike, and I thought, you know, how dare me. I've sat here, I've yelled at God, I've called him, I told him I didn't believe in him anymore. And I looked towards, and I was just so upset. I said there with tears in my eyes, and I'm getting very emotional now, because that story to this day still gets me every single time. And I remember sitting there, and I watched my son as he rode his bike up and down our little driveway, and just, you know, like, just excited as he could be. And I remember saying to God, I am so sorry, Lord. I should have never lost faith in you. I should have never not believed. And I say this to say that even though I felt like I had been left alone, he had taken me away from my comfort zone. He'd taken so much from me in my mind. I no longer had the comfort of having the home that I had, the finances that I had. So much had been taken from me. But what I didn't know, that he was performing miracles on the other end for me. He was giving me a new life. He was giving me another opportunity. He was making life better for me. And that's the beauty of it, is because he knows that we're not going to always understand. He knows that we're going to get mad at him. He knows that we're going to lose faith in him, but he's not going to leave us. And so I say to you all, and I understand, because like I said, there are so many stories like that I went through during that time frame. I was so angry. I was so hurt. There were so many things that I suffered through, and I felt like I was so alone. But everything that I suffered through, God managed to always give me something in return. He always rescued me in the nick of time. And even when I've gone through things like death in my family, you know, losing my mother and my father 9 days apart, so many people ask me, you know, how do you believe in a God that would take your parents like that, like both of them at the same time, basically? And I said, because the beauty wasn't in the death of losing my parents. The beauty was in that he took them together so they didn't have to suffer on this earth alone. Because to know my parents was to know that they needed to always be together. And so when I miss them, I always just think about that they are together. So when I sit here and tell you that miracles come in so many different ways, and that when we think that God is not paying attention and he's not loving us, he is loving us. He just doesn't necessarily love us the way we think we should be loved. He's loving us the way we deserve to be loved. He's giving us the blessing at this point. But just know that I needed to share the story with you all this morning. And the funny thing about it is, I had said only a few weeks ago that I had the perfect Christmas story time that I was going to tell this year for Christmas. And it's amazing. Like I said, God works in so many different ways, but he laid it on my heart that I needed to do this story today because of my conversation with my friend, and just knowing how she was having trouble holding her faith through some things that she was going through. And so God spoke to me and said, this is the time. You need to tell the story now. So here I am sharing the story with you all. And again, I would like to say, please remember, this is not meant to make anyone feel bad about their beliefs, or not meant to poke fun or say anything negative towards anyone. This is just my story. This is how I feel. This is how I believe. And I'm not here to pass judgment or ask you to believe a certain way. You believe how you believe. Your faith is yours. It's a personal thing. I'm not here to interfere with that at all. I stress, this is my story. So if you feel like this has been helpful to you in any way, or if you've maybe gone through anything similar to this, or you have some of these same feelings inside, feel free to thumbs up this video, and know that you're not alone, and know that we're here together for you. And feel free to comment below if you want to write me a personal email. I know I've got several of my subscribers that are going through some things right now, and maybe in going through the things that they're going through, they've had some of these very same emotions when our children don't necessarily do the right thing, and we feel like, you know, like, how can this be happening to me and my family? You know, all kinds of things are happening right now. So sometimes we just need someone else to give us a little bit of oomph, to share a story with us that reminds them that he is still with us, and he will never forsake us. So thank you guys again so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye bye.